Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very pleased to have Reina Bach as my guest. And let me tell you about Reina. She brings over 30 years of experience, both as a leader and as a leadership development consultant, executive coach, and facilitator. She has worked in private sector across many industries in the US, Asia, the UK. A few of her clients include Oracle, CH2M Hill, Merck, Avaya, I think I'm saying it wrong, Avaya, Ball Corporation, Boeing, and Salomon Brothers. She has experience in the public sector, having worked with most cabinet-level federal agencies. Reina has a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology from the University of Colorado, undergrad degree in training through Georgetown University and the Center for Creative Leadership. She is a professional certified coach through the International Coach Federation. Reina uses eVox, a biofeedback tool, to help clients more quickly remove beliefs and paradigms that keep them from living a joyful life. For fun, Reina is a certified French chef and wine sommelier. I love that. Oh my gosh. She's also a glass and jewelry artist and creator of both Joy in a Box self-care kit for women. She is super passionate about helping people find and live their best and most joyful life. Please join me in our theme today, which is Why Joy? Why Now? And welcome my guest, Reina Bach. Oh, so a French chef, huh?
Oh, I love food, I have to say, and wine too. I mean, just the study of both of them has been so rich and so rewarding, so fun.
Yeah. I used to go to wine tastings where we paired the food with the wines, and it was, as you said, it was educational, but also so delicious too. Wonderful, wonderful way to spend an evening, for sure.
Ah, yes. Oh, goodness, for sure.
Well, I think I gave away a little bit of the hint about where you live, but that's always that first question I always ask, tell everyone where you live.
Well, I'm actually, this is a cup from the Denver Starbucks, one of them here. I am in the Denver area in Colorado, although I'm from the East Coast originally. So I kind of consider myself an East Coast person, Northeast in my heart. So, yeah.
So I'm a Pittsburgh girl. So we always we always call it home, even though we don't live there anymore. I've lived in Georgia longer than I lived in Pittsburgh, but still, I always call it home.
I love, I've spent a lot of time out there in the Western PA, and the thing that I've found, Vicki, is the people are so down to earth, just good people. So, I mean, good people everywhere, but yeah, so
yeah,
love that part of the country.
For sure. So let's get into this. What would you please just share the story of your journey that really took you to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, it's It's interesting, Vicki, because I was one of those people as a kid who really enjoyed art and creating. And then I got some guidance along the way that said, "Oh, but you're so good in math and science. Why don't you be an engineer?" I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So, so I took that route out of high school. And so I started my career as as a software developer. Actually, I have an undergrad in engineering. And I was just one of those people who kind of it never really felt right. I remember being in a big room, and all I heard was the click of the keyboard. And I thought, you know what, this is so not for me. So I kind of found my way. Oh, I do have a puppy here. I found my way. She's adopted from a rescue place. So so I found my way kind of into the people development world. And I've been doing that type of work for over 30 years. And I really did fall into it. I headed up a marketing department at an insurance company. And then I headed up HR for a software company. And also I worked for the federal government, and I had a chance to work on the human capital systems. I am so sorry. I'm going to
No, that's fine. That's fine. I don't mind dogs. Just pitter patter of his feet.
Go get her. So yeah, I kind of found my way into the people development field. And when I was working for the federal government, Vicki, I was working more in the systems and looking at human capital systems. So I ended up finding my way back to kind of working one-on-one, working with teams, working with groups, working with organizations to work on the leadership development piece. And I did have a life-changing event when I lost a friend in 9/11. And we had worked together in New York, and I had worked at an investment bank. We worked there together. And losing Karen, Vicki, was one of those times where sometimes we have those moments where it makes us take a look. After I cried, and I cried for years actually, but took a look and said, what am I doing with my life? And I feel like I'm asleep in my own life. And how can I fix this? What do I need to do? And that's when I really did what I call as an etch-a-sketch of life. And I really turned things upside down and kind of disembarked from my life and sold my my house and gave most of my belongings away, and ended up just traveling around and doing those things that I always wanted to do on my bucket list. And one of them was going to the French Culinary Institute in New York City. And so that's where Karen went. We had looked at that together before I left New York and moved to Colorado. She ended up doing that. And so, you know what? That's one of the things that I want to do. And so that was obviously a while ago. But that was a very pivotal time for me to really take a step back and say, who am I really, and who do I want to be, and what will bring me more joy?
Yeah, so good. So let's just talk about that. What is joy? And how different is it from happiness?
Well, it's interesting. A number of years ago, I want to say probably 10 years ago, I had worked with the city. Well, actually, it was Colorado State University. And I approached them because my old professor from my master's degree worked there. And I said, hey, do you have any PhD students who would be interested in studying joy? And so sure enough, so we worked together. And in the research, I mean, you do the lit search, right? And you figure out what's already been done out there. And there were discrepancies between the definition of joy and happiness. And a lot of times with the joy piece, it referenced more spiritual practices and a way of being. And I think for me, where I landed, Vicki, is joy is not dependent on outside circumstances.
Yeah, Right.
Joy resides in here, regardless of what's going on out in the world. So it's that kind of deeper reservoir that you can tap into that will help you kind of through the lows that you might be experiencing in your life, but also make you appreciate the highs. So so with happiness, it really is more of a mood. Or an emotion, right? So it is dependent on outside circumstances and events and other people and so forth, versus that reservoir within of joy that you can tap into anytime, anywhere. And so building that muscle of joy. And in my experience, Vicki, it's really just about allowing and giving yourself permission to see the joy, to notice the joy, to what brings you joy, to really elevate that that space within.
And I think what you just said was probably really worth repeating. It's the noticing. That, you know, what comes to mind to me is whenever I see a sunset or I see the interesting sky or clouds or, you know, the beautiful flowers or whatnot. And that, you know, impacts me. It makes me feel some emotion. But a lot of times people just go by life and they miss that. They just don't notice it.
That is so important, because really joy is it's a mindset. I think it's also a verb. I mean, we categorize it as a noun, but do you joy? Right? Do you have joy, but do you allow joy as a noun, but also are you joy, and do you joy? So let's do joy. And so it's in the noticing, and you're absolutely right. I mean, our lives, particularly in this culture, it's all about the doing, not so much about the being. So we're really moving, task oriented, doing a lot, which is really great, but having that balance of being able to slow down a little bit and really notice that sunset, notice that sunrise, notice the color of the trees in autumn as they're changing. And so it's
being present. You know, I think we're so worried about what's next and all the planning and things. And I'm a project manager at heart, and you know, I approve and I love planning. But I also take great joy in the present, you know. It's just, I think, something that if anything with the pandemic helped with for a lot of people is that slowdown was forced upon them. And all of a sudden they started to appreciate things. And just like your friends passing with 9/11, the pandemic brought us a lot of people brought to reality that life is not given, you know, that any moment it could be taken away. And what are you doing with that? That's the thing for me, you know, at 65, almost 66, it was to the point where, okay, I want to make sure that the time that I spend here was worth, you know, the gift that it was of life. So,
you know, and I have friends who have lost loved ones in the last few years, and someone I know just passed away a few days ago. And it is, they're having a celebration of her life because she was super vivacious. I mean, just so much fun. And right. And so allowing ourselves to really bake that into our day, in our week, in our month, and spending quality time, not only with others, but with ourselves too. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
So what's the secret to living a fulfilling life at home and at work?
Well, one of the biggest things that I found, Vicki, is being honest with yourself. And the theme of identity came up yesterday, and we go through our life and we have certain things we have values, and whether or not we are really cognizant of them, some of us sit down and really think what's really important to us. And so that shifts over time, but also so do we. And so holding on to an identity or a situation or a loved one who maybe you were not supposed to be together. Let's talk about a romantic relationship or a job itself, right? So sometimes things have a shelf life. And so it's really being honest with what matters to me now, what matters to you now, and who are you now? And who do you, more importantly, so just as important is who do you want to be? And so I think going back to that, really being really honest with yourself, that is really important. A second thing that is important, I think, for a fulfilling, joyful life at work and home is being willing to not be victim, to take responsibility, and to sometimes make those difficult choices that you need to do. Sometimes you need to get out of a job. Sometimes you need to leave an organization. Sometimes you might have that inkling to start your own business, and you've had it for a long time. Well, maybe it's time to go do that. And so it's really listening to yourself, being honest, and also taking responsibility, because nobody else can make us happy. Nobody can make you happy but you, Vicki, right? Same for me. Right. And we also can't make other people happy. We can try and make their life more present, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I tried that. It doesn't go so well. So
I used to tell my daughter that when she was in high school and she was dating guys, and she always was picking guys that she was going to fix. And I said,
oh my goodness,
nobody can fix anybody. You know, if they want to be fixed, it's all in them. That's their journey to take. But I think also what you're saying just brings to light what I always talk about. What leads to confidence is that courage to take a risk, courage to go outside your comfort zone, courage to be yourself.
That is absolutely huge. And it goes, that courage goes with the power, right? The personal empowerment. And so allowing yourself to step in your power. And I don't know about you, but as a female in the work environment, and I'm not making excuses or playing victim, but we do have to be, I think, a little bit more aware of our power and choosing to step into that power.
Absolutely.
And so that courage, and no, we can't change anybody else. So as much as we'd like to, right? And that's the work that I do in my coaching, Vicki, is it took me a while being as a newbie coach a long time ago. And, I just want to help everybody. Well, guess what? I can only be assistance and walk along the path with somebody if they are willing to do the work. And so they're doing the work and they're stepping into it. But, and so I can help them see and own their own power and their choices and their communication and how they show up and what they want to create at work and in their personal lives. So, so they have to take the steps.
For sure. So what does it mean to cultivate joy through the senses?
You brought up, you mentioned a little bit ago, being mindful.
Yeah.
And that is really the key. It's a way to step into being present and in the moment so that you can notice and you can be. And I support people who do yoga. I'm not one of those people. A lot of people like to meditate. I do my quiet time. It doesn't resonate with everybody, but the accessing joy through the senses, it is another kind of modality or medium to really get into the moment and be mindful. So you said you enjoy food, wine tasting.
Yeah, that's where my mind was going right away. It's like that totally gets all the senses involved.
Yeah. So say more about that experience for you, because I'd love to hear from you, that pairing, and what was that like for you?
Well, it's one of those things where you have great food, and so you sense the flavors of it. But then with the pairing brings out so much more of those flavors, and it just makes your senses explode. It's really a wonderful thing. And you could have a great thing separately, the great wine or great meal, food, dish, but it's whenever you put them together that you get that unexpected surprise and that wonderful, I guess, explosion of your senses whenever it's really done well. And things that you just don't even think about. That's why I always think that the pairing is just like science at its best, to be able to have that great thing, and people will say, well, I don't like that wine, but it could be because of what they ate just before that wine.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there could be flavors that are left over. And when I sit down with a glass of wine, and I've done some wine tastings, facilitated some, and the thing is that you're noticing first the what's in the glass, the color of the glass. And you're looking at it with a backdrop of white paper, and you're looking at the edges, you're looking at the core of the wine. So you're really fully present with that glass of wine. And then when you take a sip, what are you noticing in your mouth and on your palate? Yeah. What are those primary notes? Are you getting a lot of fruit? Or is it more jammy, or is it fresh fruit? Are you getting some of those secondary, tertiary notes, like a little bit, a hint of oak, maybe some vanilla, a Burgundy Pinot? You might be getting some earth flavors. So barnyard, they might call that. So it can be super subtle. So a wine like that, a French Burgundy, it's not going to hit you in the face, but the flavors and the aromas are just so subtle. And so being very present with that glass, and that's just wine tasting. Of course, foods. One of the things that I think is a blast to do is trying a dish out at a restaurant and taking a bite, and what spices are in there? What herbs are you getting? Are you getting some tarragon? Or are you getting some chive? So what are those flavors? So really slowing down versus food as fuel. And that's just with food and wine. I mean, there's so much more, but through the senses, because you're not operating and thinking about what you have to do tomorrow, or send that email, or have that conversation, or prep for that meeting, but you're just right there. And so that is an access to the present moment where you can say, wow, look at this. And then if you're training yourself to do that, again, building that muscle is, so then when you kind of look up from your glass and you're walking out of the restaurant, you might notice that sunset. You might notice a beautiful building that has amazing architecture that you wouldn't have necessarily noticed before.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
So why do so many people not see or believe that they can have more joy in their lives?
Well, it can go way back for people. And so it can go back to childhood, right? I am not a therapist, I'm a coach. But there could have been some messages, right? I don't know about you, but some messages as a kid to say, do your schoolwork, do this, do that, do the chores. And so joy wasn't necessarily part of the conversation. And so there may be some history there that shaped kind of the outlook. And I think part of it too is not a lot of my clients or a number who I work with on this point is feeling like they deserve a good life, feeling like they deserve to be happy and that they're worthy of having an abundant life, a joyful life, a fulfilling life, a fun life, a healthy life, right? And so there are some deep things that might be going on for somebody. So those are a couple of the components, the messages that they heard from over the years. It could even be teachers and whatnot, but shape the outlook. And so, and then you kind of combine it with the culture of ours, which is primarily about the doing and achieving and the success and getting to the next level and doing this and that and having an abundant life on the outside. But so many people I talk to, Vicki, are that I work with may have it all, but they're not happy.
Yeah.
They're not fulfilled. And so they keep going for the next this or that. And at some point they say, wow, this is great, but it's not everything that's not filling my cup within. And so those are just some of the things that I come across with people in the work I do that are barriers, but we look at those messages and how they're showing up, and it starts with choices, right? Down to even asking that question, what brings you joy? So if I ask you that question right now, what brings you joy? What would you say?
I'd say there's a person blowing leaves outside of my house right now, just as you asked the question. So, but really what brings me joy is just simple things. I often tell people about going to my 4-year-old grandson's t-ball game. And it is the best medicine for anyone that's feeling down, because these kids just do everything for the joy of it. They run abandoned. They are just not really that much caring about the rules yet. And they know that they have to, work with the ball, but whether they throw the ball to a person or not is not really that important to them. I just laugh the entire time for 40 minutes. And, some people might think, well, that was kind of a waste of time. They didn't accomplish anything. But to see them so happy running around that field makes me joyous.
I can see your vibration just went up a few notches, and your lights in your eyes just went, oh, yeah. And that's the thing, like we as we grow through our lives and we have responsibilities and whatnot, one of the ways that people can get back to and access the joy is what brings them joy, and being and spending some time with that, and then trying some things that maybe they some dreams that they gave up doing. So maybe spending time with kids and just watching them, this unbridled joy. It's unbridled. It is just raw joy, raw energy. And we were all kids at one time. And so what were those things that had you feel like that? So that's one of the things that a question to ask is, yes, you might be getting, in the way, some of these old tapes, right, running in the background. But it's at the same time, you're starting to spin a plate to say, what brings you joy? What brings me joy? What brings you joy? And then taking some inspired steps to incorporate some of that joy. So going to your grandson's t-ball game.
Yeah. I used to just go out in my grandmother's farm in Pittsburgh and just hang out in the field, staring at the clouds, just trying to decide, okay, that's a pig, or that's a, a cow, or whatever, the shapes of the clouds. And it's not simple, crazy, easy thing to do, but it was relaxing and it just brought you happiness. And so that's something that I try to do with my grandsons now, because everything is so fast paced and doing their electronics and whatnot. No, you have to be able to be quiet. And I think a lot of society today doesn't know how to be quiet and enjoy that silence.
Yeah. And there's some statistics on this, and I don't know what the numbers are, but every day we're getting hit with thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of data points. So on the screen, spending time, or playing a video game, or watching TV, driving a car. So doing all we're hit with in social media, right? We're hit with so much data that even just to stop it for a few minutes is what people can do, right? To be able to, and it also is a shift, because that activity can be a little bit addicting, right? And so being away from your cell phone, or being able to take a few minutes just to sit quietly and look at the clouds and see what animals you might find, or what shapes. So it's really being intentional about the experience that you want to have through the day, through the week, and carving out some of that time. Yeah.
Time is flying by. So it's time now for me to switch over to a couple just rapid fire questions. So I was wondering what book or person has inspired you recently?
Well, I would say that Louise Hay is a person who has always inspired me, and she passed away. She ended up having a publishing company, but one of the books that I have as a reference on my shelf is You Can Heal Your Life.
Yeah.
And she also has some lovely cards that are just reminders. And so I might pick a card and say, gosh, what messages? And so inspirational messages. So that's really a standby for me. And there's another one, I can't think of the name. Melody Beattie is the author of, she actually wrote a book where 365 entries in this book. And she gives an inspirational message for every single day of the year. And I've cycled through it a few times, and that's part of my morning routine, just to start the day off right. Sorry, I can't think of the name right now, but Melody Beattie. And it's an oldie but a goodie from 1985 or 86. It was published.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Well, I just staying in joy and being of service to my clients to help them find their joy. And so, I mean, ultimately, Vicki, I think the world would be a better place if more people were really fulfilled and joyful. And so that's my mission, is to help people, help leaders and organizations, because they impact so many people, right? People join organizations, but they leave supervisors, they leave managers.
Yeah.
Right. And so if they can be better people and happier, guess what? The people who they interact with, their staff and their organizations, will be better. And they're going to have a better life outside of work as well. So it's really just staying on task and on that mission, and bringing in, I'm integrating horses into the sometime next year, because they are majestic creatures who also mirror our emotions back. And so working with individuals and teams and groups of people to help healing at a deeper level that will provide a different access to finding that heart space. So helping them move from their heads to their hearts. We need both, but sometimes we cut it off from here down. So I would love for people to show up as their whole selves in their full expression of who they came here to be, and find that deeper fulfillment and live that way.
So the leadership that I train on is leading from the heart, the head, and the hands. And so it's exactly as you're saying, you first make that connection with the heart, and then you are much more able to make the connection with the mind. And you always have to know, how can you help others? So servant leadership, so the hands.
Yeah. Well, oh my goodness. Thank you for what you do and supporting and helping change lives out there, Vicki. Thank you so much for what you do.
Well, and thank you for bringing joy, because I truly believe what you say. If more people just allowed themselves to be joyful, the world would be a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. It would look different. Yeah.
It's time now for me to share my screen. So I am going to do that right now, so you can get the contact information if you have been listening and definitely want to get in contact with Reina. You'll go to the website of https://ReinaBach.com. That's REINABACH.com. Facebook, you can go to Reina.Bach. LinkedIn is Reina Bach, all one word. eSpeakers, just search for Reina Bach. And I'll let Reina talk to you what exactly you might find when you go to her website.
Sure. Going to my website, I offer one-on-one coaching. I offer a 6-month-long program, Joy Within Reach, 3 different tiers. And I also do speaking as well for audiences to bring joy and presence joy for leadership, and professional women primarily is my market. And also I do have an upcoming free webinar as we prepare to finish out the holiday season this year and move into the next year. And that webinar is Reassess, Recalibrate, Revive. And so I'll be giving some practical tips on how to show up the way you want to through the end of this year, and then also look into next year, 2024, and how do you want your year to look next year? And more importantly, how do you want to feel in the experience that is your life on the work court and off the work court? And so simply just go to my website. There's a link on the homepage, and you'll just enter your email, and then you'll receive a link to attend. And that webinar is on December 19th, and it's at noon Mountain Time. Again, December 19th, noon Mountain Time, and it is free.
Awesome. All right. So again, that website is ReinaBach.com. Well, Reina, it's been just wonderful chatting with you. You shared a lot of great information, thoughtful information to have our folks spend the day reflecting on what you said and how can they find joy in their lives, both personally and professionally. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.